I couldn't wait to rip off my old skin and just see who the new creation was going to be. So it was just immediate for me. Hey guys, this is Lucas, and this is my story. So I grew up in a secular home, I would say. Both my parents, well, my mom was an atheist and my dad was forced into Catholicism, but walked away pretty soon after that. I never heard the name of Jesus, and it wasn't until about the age of 11 where I started to have these panic attacks, and they progressed, and I was just concerned about what it was like to die. And I came to the conclusion that it was just complete and utter darkness, and there was nothing around. It was just me alone, and just all by myself. The obvious answer is Satan, but I just never put any guard up on anything. It was always just whatever comes, just go with the flow and just allow it to happen. I think it was just me allowing things into my life that probably shouldn't have been there. I had my first sexual encounter by the age of 7 years old, and just allowing these things to creep into my life and never knowing an answer or how to get rid of them. And I just kept allowing them to happen over and over again in my life. So I would say by allowing that and keeping that door open, it just allowed so much foothold for the enemy. And so then that's when I really started to start questioning life and what was the purpose, what was the end, like what was it like, and that's when the panic attacks set in. So those continued every single day. It got to the point where I would just tremble, I would cry, and I would just try to run from this fear. I would literally just run out of classrooms in the middle of school or just run out of the house down the road. From 16 to 18 in those years, I really turned hard to alcohol, drugs, and sex. And that was just the basis of my life. At the time, it gives immediate gratification, it gives you temporary happiness, but there's nothing sustaining in that. Where eventually I felt like I hit rock bottom. I was using every day, I was drinking every day, and I was just doing anything to get on my hands on that would fulfill any kind of desires that I may have. So essentially I got to the point about 18 years old, just before I turned 18 years old. I was going through a breakup. I was just sitting in the school parking lot all by myself after school had ended, and I just thought to myself, I don't want this pain anymore, I just want to end it. So my idea was go home and take a bunch of different things that could potentially end my life. And my friend had texted me, said, hey man, I really feel like you should come to church today. And it was a Friday night. They were just doing a little revival service. And I had said no, like that's not what I want. So I said no, sent it, and then I continued on with my plan. So I started driving home. And then soon after that, he called me. He said, hey, I just walked out of church. God just told me, you need to come to church. This is your last opportunity. You will not have another chance. And I said, well, that's convincing enough. So I ended up going. There was about 5 minutes left in the service and ended up giving my life to Jesus at an altar call. It was me and two other guys in front of 500 students that I had no idea who they were, but they were very encouraging. So I talked about fear earlier, about panic attacks, and it got to all the point where I was running and crying and just trying to flee from this fear. Well, when I gave my life to Jesus, the first question the pastor had asked me was, how do you feel? And the only thing that I could wrap my head around was, I'm just not afraid anymore. I'm not afraid anymore was my response. But when I gave my life to Jesus, I could tell there was that instant weight off my shoulders. Fear had no hold on me anymore. And I truly felt like a son. I feel like I just got adopted into sonship. So that was the most amazing moment of my life, just going through that. And we saw 244 students give their life to Jesus. And the next week, after the whole revival service had ended and we were all back in our normal days, our normal life, I just saw that everyone had reverted back to where they came from, and I didn't want to. I noticed this change was so substantial. It was such an immediate change, and I knew how real Jesus was in my life just to take that fear away from me immediately. So I finished out the rest of that school year. This was in February 21st, 2015, my senior year. And I finished out that school year not doing any more schoolwork because I'd have a Bible study in every single class with one of my best friends. And that's when I just knew I was supposed to live different. This was a lifestyle of Christianity from here on out. So that's how I started living. I talked about those temporary things that brought me joy before, whether it was sex, drugs, or alcohol, anything like that, where it maybe gave you minutes or mere seconds of joy, or not even joy, just happiness or whatever you want to call it. Just that it was just that fix right then and there. And when Jesus saved my life, I could tell is just immediately how much greater this true joy was. From the age of 11 all the way to nearly 18 years old, we're talking a month before my 18th birthday, so almost 7 entire years of having a panic attack every single day. And the moment I had that weight lifted off my shoulders and giving my life to Jesus, that was the moment that fear, I tried to think of what it was like to die again. All I could think about was Jesus. And the only thing I could do was smile when I thought about death instead of cry. So it was an immediate change for me, coming from fearful to fearless and coming from addicted to freedom. It was immediate. It was overnight, which what my pastor had told me at the time was that doesn't happen too often. Sometimes it takes people a long time. Like, I was just shedding off who I was immediately. I couldn't wait to rip off my old skin and just see who the new creation was going to be. So it was just immediate for me. It was the best and the worst time of my life. I was a mama's boy. As me and my brother were the only two kids that my mom and dad had. He was more so all outdoorsy with my dad, and I was more so, I wouldn't say indoorsy, but I was definitely just hanging out with my mom all the time. So it was really hard to lose my mom, because I lost my mom and my best friend. But at the same time, when I gave my life to Jesus and I just completely clean slate, changed everything, and I probably just being annoying about how much I love Jesus, I convinced my mom to go to church with me, who, by the way, again, was an atheist, and she ended up giving her life to Jesus 3 days after me. So when she died on February 24th of 2018, which is 3 years exactly to the day whenever she gave her life to Jesus, when she died, I knew that she was in a better place. And I know it's a cliche thing to say, but at the same time, there was that security. So I was so joyful at the fact that, and jealous that she got to be with Jesus in such an intimate setting. But at the same time, I still lost someone. I still lost my best friend. I still lost my mom. So that was, like I said, the most beautiful, the most joyful, but also the hardest time of my life. That's pretty much it. Yeah.